Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. The Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3 is going through the public hearing stage and is turning out to be a theater, pathetic performance. Some of the comparisons are really so idiotic, it's unbelievable. Of all the idiotic comparisons, here is one of the most pathetic I've heard so far.
Seat yechitu andizvo seat yechi3 andizvo musangano unotonga DCC chairman netimu dzenyu nemember dzese dzeprovince. I recognize you. Nyika term 1 city kana wakuda term 2 unobva pasiti ogara pane chi2 handizvo kune third term futi unosumuka pasiti yechi2 oenda pa third term handizvo vaMnangagwa vakapinda vakagara term ye5 years handizvo vakasumuka nguva futi kuti vapinde term yechi2 handizvo iyi ndeyechi3 kai unofana kusumuka kubva panapa kuchienda yechi3 yechi2 yavari vachiri vakagara asi vakagara kudai icheya ikamubva mbichana kudai third term ikamubva futi kudai third term. Kana maenda kunoona bhora unobhadhara 90 minutes 90 chi half one in 45 minutes imwe ine chi kasi ref anozoti aiwa bhora iri raita draw in 90 minutes takupinda extra time mabuda remstadium mukabhadhara futi matitadza kuwirirana futi extra time akuti sudden death kumapena mabuda mstadium mukadzoka futi ndepapi panoti iyi cheya haigoni kufamba pamutemo wenyika. Ndokutaura Constitutional Amendment Bill muri kupanza hapana mutemo unoti haugoni kuextenda unogona kuita sei kuextenda asi haugoni kuita third term kugara apo kana wafunga kuita third term kugara apo yakuenda kureferendum.
How pathetic can you be? Ben, welcome to the program.
Good day to you and good day to our viewers. Thank you for joining us. You know, what Tim Mliswa is trying to say there, I think, is very dangerous. And again, I agree with you, it's pathetic. One can simply start pushing that chair until you push the third one out of the way. That becomes indefinite on the second chair. It's still an extension. And we're back to what Mugabe, the Mugabe era, where Mugabe was president for 37 years. Look, there is a reason why the Constitution says the maximum is 2 5-year terms. Any extension is actually breaking the 2 5-year terms. And all this other explanation that he is trying to give, it really doesn't, make any sense at all. I really don't get what the point is. Besides, you're teaching children, the wrong concept that you can simply move things just to suit you. It's really pathetic because you can now just bulldoze the third chair away and keep moving the second one indefinitely. Then what? I think it's somebody that has forgotten that Zimbabwe, the only time that they changed hands, power changed hands was through a military coup. It was unconstitutional because we created such a thing in the first place. And he wants to take us right back to it. ZANU-PF wants to take us right back through it, which I find very pathetic again.
I think there is nothing wrong with trying to make things simple, but it becomes totally meaningless to compare things that are not in any way similar. The Constitution is a law, a covenant between those elected in public office and the people. And if we pretend that Zimbabwe is a democracy, then power rests with the people. It is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. The elected representatives are elected by the people. And in this case, they are elected for a maximum term of 5 years. Maximum. There are certain conditions under which you may not serve the full term, but you cannot serve more than 5 years. That is what the contract is saying, the covenant is saying. And at the end of it, the people, in a free, fair, and credible election process, can decide to put you back into office. But the election itself must be free, fair, and credible. We have said on this platform that ZANU-PF has never held free, fair, and credible elections. When Mnangagwa first occupied the office of the president, he came on the cocktails of a military coup. That wasn't the democratic wish of the people. And he promised that he will hold free, fair, and credible elections. Come 2018, those elections were not free, fair, and credible. And so he got into power without the democratic will of the people. The 2023 came, the same thing again happened. He blatantly rigged those elections. That cannot be overemphasized. He himself, it's not only me who is saying it, SADC and the AU and all the election observers who witnessed Zimbabwe's 2023 elections condemned those elections as flawed. And he himself did not like SADC telling him that the election process was flawed. And he dismissed SADC and the AU as detractors. This is what he said.
Vana vakatuka ZANU-PF kana ini ndonyanyisa kufara ndokuita tiri kuita zvakanaka. Ukavona vavengi vako vachikurumbidzwa nekuchikanganisa, ukavona vachiti ZANU-PF yakaipa, farai, because you are doing correct things for your country. Hongu takaita maelections edu, kuna vamwe vaitaura zvisina musoro zvikanzi maelections anofamba zvakanaka, ndezvavo.
This is the reality we are dealing with. This is an individual who took over office in 2017 on the cocktails of a military coup, went on to rig the 2018 elections, and so he wasn't elected by the people, and then to rig 2023 elections. And now he wants to extend his stay in office by another 2 years. And somebody wants to pretend, well, this is the referee deciding that we need to go into extra time. This has nothing to do with the referee, if this was a football game, or the other team. This is the one team that is coming up with all its own rules. He's coming into office in the first place. The elections in 2018 and 2023 had nothing to do with the ordinary people whose mandate he's supposed to get. And now he wants to extend his stay in office. You despair, honestly.
I mean, as Zimbabweans, sometimes we need to see the bigger picture. When Mnangagwa first came into office, there was this whole 2030 Zimbabwe will be an upper middle income economy. And he himself, Mnangagwa, declared that 2030, I'll still be there. In Shona, he says 2030, Ndendi Chiripo. That alone showed that there was some form of, he was planning to violate the constitution. He was planning to extend the moment he got in. I remember there was an interview that he held, I think, with a foreign journalist, and he was asked, "Are you going to do your 2 5-year terms and be out?" And he declared, "I'm a constitutionalist. Of course, I'm going to do my time and I'm going to go and somebody else." Of course, he was lying then, because at home, he had already set the plan in motion. It is unfortunate that as Zimbabweans, we have always been slow to seeing, or to read in between the lines. The moment Mnangagwa got into office, the plan had already been set in motion. 2030 became their agenda, and it has always been their agenda. Yes, they will hide and say development, but he wanted to stay beyond his time. And now what, the likes of Mliswa and all this, what is happening now that is causing so much chaos, the hearings and giving your opinions. ZANU-PF had already made plans that only their people would talk to show the world that people want him. And it's working. Because when you go for any hearing and you have, people like Mliswa coming out and supporting, it shows the world that probably this is what they want. But that is not true, obviously, because ZANU-PF has always been rigging and having their way when it comes to these things. So it's quite unfortunate that, you know, we have been slow to see this, but it was always there. It was already in the making from day one.
Yeah, it is most unfortunate. I would like to just remind the listeners out there that this Sunday, we're going to have a guest, Divine Mafa. We're going to discuss his book. And the book is the one that's being shown now on your screen. The Referendum Lie Betrayed. Divine Mafa has written this book, and it's about Zimbabwe. And he's going to give us his take of what is happening on this issue. It will be at 7 o'clock UK time and 8 o'clock Zimbabwean time. And those of you who will be available, you're welcome to join us on the platform, and you can have your views heard as well on the day. And the link is being shown at the bottom of your screen there. So if you take note of it, join us. We use the same link on Saturdays and Sunday evening discussions. And I hope some of you will be able to join us. But to come back to the issue we are talking about here, Themba Mliswa's comparison of what is happening with this referendum, comparing it to the football game. If he was really serious about comparing the two, then he has got to admit that in this case here, ZANU-PF is not just breaking the rules, is ignoring rules and making up rules as it goes along, because it controls everybody. Everybody. If this was a football game, then this is the equivalent of ZANU-PF realizing it is losing, deciding initially that there will be extra time, 45 minutes injury time. And then when it realizes that's not good enough, it still needs more time, deciding that it will bring back all those players that it has substituted and argue that after all they've got the uniform or something equally stupid like that. This referendum, ZANU-PF is imposing its will on the people of Zimbabwe. Mnangagwa accepts or realizes that the constitution says he cannot serve more than 2 terms. The constitution is very clear. When people are being elected, members of parliament, president, senators, councillors, they are elected for a maximum period of 5 years. And then they've got to come back to the electorate, and the people will decide whether to elect them again. In the case of the president, the constitution goes on to say he can only be elected and serve in the office of president for a maximum of 2 terms. So the term itself has got a maximum period, 5-year term. And now the same people who were elected for a maximum 5 years term are turning around and saying, we are going to extend our stay in office from 5 years to 7 years. You were not elected to serve more than 5 years. And in his case, he just wants to use that as an excuse to stay in office beyond the maximum 10-year, two-term limits that he has already served. That is the reality here. And to try to compare it to a football game, going into extra time, is the most idiotic and disingenuous comparison one can give. Ben, do you want to give your closing remarks?
You know, I would liken it to this way, or I would put it this way. You employ somebody and you give them a 5-year contract. And after or close to their, contract expiring, they take it upon themselves to extend their own contracts. This is what we are seeing here. Zimbabweans gave ZANU-PF and, all those in public office a 5-year contract that you will serve us for this period of time. It is not up to them now to then get rid of the employer or the boss and then make decisions or total decision for themselves. Not only is it absurd, but it's unheard of. But look, we have the likes of Themba Mliswa who have actually bulldozed, people out of their companies and so forth. This is normal. This is what ZANU-PF does. And they were trained in ZANU-PF. It's their way or the highway. So it's not really surprising where he would stand and want to bulldoze the chair, the third chair, and keep shifting the second chair until God knows when. You are opening Pandora's box. Let's say, okay, you do extend for the 2 years and get away with it. The next uncle that is coming again is going to look for the same excuse and even want more. That's how it is. People tend to get greedy and greedy and greedy. Once you have created this precedent, God knows where we will go next. And for me, I think that is the scary part. Once we have crossed this line, I am sure and I'm positive that the next ZANU-PF guy or whoever comes in next will want to go the extra mile. Besides them wanting to go 7 years, the next guy may want 10 years, 15 years, still an extension. You have not sat on the third chair. It doesn't really make sense, and I don't think this is what Zimbabwe needs. Zimbabwe needs, excuse me, Zimbabwe has never had a proper constitutional change of power. And I think this was the opportunity that would have even cemented Mnangagwa's, legacy. Though he has been part and parcel of the rigging, but at least he has done his too and left amicably. Now what he is doing is, well, it's expected of ZANU-PF and Mnangagwa. Thank you.
My closing remarks will be that the people of Zimbabwe should never forget that we could have avoided this mess in the first place if ZANU-PF had honored its promise of one man, one vote of the Liberation War days. One man, one vote was one of the key promises in the fight for independence. ZANU-PF did not honor that. The regime decided in 1980 that it was not going to risk losing those elections. And it decided that it's going to campaign on the basis that if the party does not win the election, the Bush War would continue. The people voted to end the Bush War and hoped that ZANU-PF would be content with that. Unfortunately, typical of a dictatorship of tyrants, they got that and they came back and demanded more. Within 3 years, the regime was on a war footing. It launched the infamous Gukurahundi massacre. The primary purpose of Gukurahundi was to force the only other viable political party that posed a serious political challenge to ZANU-PF to give up its independence as an independent party, PF SAPU. And it was not until 1987 that PF SAPU finally relented and signed the Unity Accord. And by then, over 20,000 people had been massacred. The Unity Accord cleared the deck for ZANU-PF to impose the de facto one-party state that has ruled the country to this day. What we are seeing here is just another milestone down that path where ZANU-PF is consolidating its dictatorial powers and compromising the people's right to a meaningful say in the governance of the country. We had the golden opportunity to dismantle the ZANU-PF dictatorship during the 2008 to 2013 GNU. Unfortunately, Morgan Tsvangirai and his MDC friends sold out. They failed to implement even one token reform. And so the GNU finished, and ZANU-PF still had its dictatorial powers. And this amendment is consolidating some of those dictatorial powers. I said earlier on, Mnangagwa came into office on the cocktail of a military coup and went on to rig the 2018 elections, and then the most recent ones, the 2023 elections. And now he is rigging this amendment process to extend his stay in office by another 2 years. This is the nightmare the nation is facing. It is a pity that when we had the chance to end the dictatorship, we wasted it. And now we are paying dearly for it. And anyone who thinks that this amendment will improve Zimbabwe's political and economic situation is naive, to say the very least. Think about it. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.